Okay, so that's now started. Okay, so we're here. My name is Rory Davidson. I'm from SNOMED International. I'm the executive lead for technology services, and we are here to give a demonstration of the new US content request service, which is now being hosted by SNOMED International, and to ensure that to allow users to submit content to SNOMED TT and specifically to the US edition. We have some representatives from the National Library of Medicines on the call with me, as well as a couple of staff from SNOMED International to be able to answer any questions. We will have a questions and answers at the end of the call. So please, line up your questions, and we shall answer as best as we can. If you have any issues with the call while we're going out, please add something into the chat window, and we'll make sure that we tackle any issues that you're having with this web conference. So, as I said, I'm going to talk about the US CRS. Obviously, this is the system that many of you would have been using for a number of years now. It's been a very useful tool to allow a lot of good content to be either included into the US edition or also be directly promoted to the international edition of SNOMED CT. But it was time to move to a new platform, and specifically a platform that integrated with the wider and specifically the international SNOMED CT. So some of you may be aware that SNOMED International has a version of this platform already running, and it's been quite successful for us over the last year or so. One of the benefits of this platform was that it integrates directly with our authoring environment. And this means that we can be more efficient, we can turn around content requests much quicker than before, and it seemed like a very good fit for us to do the same thing for the US CRS, as they came from very similar platforms. The benefits of the platform are the tight integration to both the authoring of the US edition, but also promotion of content to SNOMED International. So we've seen benefits in efficiency, and we hope that now we're live on this new platform, this will also be seen on this new platform. So without further ado, I'm going to go into a demo, and below you can see the URL for the system. It is us-request.ixjtools.org. There is some guidance documentation, and I will walk through all of this, so hopefully I won't miss anything now. So first thing, when you come into the service, you're asked to log in. Now, if you had an account with US CRS before, your details would have been transferred across, although you will have a new account. We have quite a strict structure on how we put usernames together, mainly because within the SNOMED International community, there's a wide range of users, and so we try to stick to a very particular format. So generally, your username would be first letter of your first name and then your family name. So in my case, it's R. Davidson. And so generally, you would have received an email from the National Library of Medicines giving you details of your new user account, plus how to reset your password. However, if you already have been part of the community in SNOMED CT globally, you may have already had an account by working with our Confluence collaboration site. Some of these terms may not mean much to you, but if they do, then you'll know you'll have an account. If not, you should have instructions on how to reset the password in your account. If you don't, for whatever reason, then there's an email at the end of this presentation so that you can get in touch with us, and we'll do what we can to sort out any problems. So I'm going to log in now to use my test account. Having just said we had a strict name policy, this obviously is not a good strict name policy, but this is just for our test accounts. I'm working on the test environment so that I don't submit a lot of unnecessary content to the US team. I don't think they'd be particularly happy if I did. So I'm logging in. Now this is the starting point for the system. I'll walk through each of these areas now, and then we'll go through how you create a new request, how the request works, and really where you get contacted and how it works for you as requesters. So the starting point here is the dashboard, and the dashboard always logs you to your requests. So here you can see I've made 4 requests. They're in different statuses, which is linked by this particular, shown by this particular column. And this is just the work that I've done, and whether I've submitted it, whether they're in draft, and whether I'm waiting for things to be completed. That is also kind of shown here. If you see here on the sidebar here, we have these my requests plus all these status numbers. Now these really show me what requests I have and what, how many I have. Obviously here I only have 4. If you are if you're somebody who submits quite a lot of data, then you'll see larger numbers in here, but it gives you a very quick view on where your requests are. There's a very quick way to see. So if I wanted to see all the requests I had that were, let's say, accepted, I'd have a 1 here. It's maybe a bit small, but if I click on this 1, it takes me to my requests and just filters it out directly for me. I'll go back here. Now on the side here, there are essentially 5 screens that you should be aware of. One is my request. As I said here, this is your main dashboard to see where is the work you're doing, what's the status of the request you've made, and where they are in the whole workflow. The next one is one called submitted requests, and this is interesting because this is all the requests in the system. So this means that if you were curious to see if somebody had submitted similar content in the past, you would be able to come here and search. So it's a very useful way to see, as I said, reduce duplication. And it's quite an easy search engine. So for example, if I was looking for history, so I can type in history here at the top, I can press enter, and this shows me all the requests that have the word history in there somewhere. So for example, if I look here, there's exposure to malaria, and in here you can see in the proposed use case, it has history. So it's a very broad way of searching. If I return now back to the submitted request again, and I clear off my search, I can also be more specific. I can look for particular concepts. I can go to the top of the column, as you can see here, and I could type in, let's say, history here. And it's very quick type ahead. There's no need to press enter here. And straight away, I can see all the concepts that have been submitted that have history of right prosthetic knee joint and so on. So that's a very quick way, but it also gives you the number as well. So I can close this down. You can see that from a point of view of how many open requests there are in our test system, there's 995. If I wanted to see all the requests that have been made since the beginning of time, then I can click on show closed requests, and you can see there's a lot more that's been obviously vast majority has been processed since then. This screen kind of works like most tables you would see on most online sites. You can filter by status. I could choose everything that's accepted, and it just filters it down. I can again clear the filter, or you can do multiple filters. So it's a very nice way to work around. You can sort by modified date, sort by created date, for example. You can also change the columns that are visible. So at the moment I've got quite a lot of columns, but I could cut that right down and save that so that when I come back to this page, I only see the columns that I've requested. So it's a very useful way of getting around the requests. The next page is my batch requests. Now, I'll talk about batch requests later on in the call, but this is a way where I can go and see the status of the batch requests. So for example, I did a demo, I've done some testing earlier on, and I have a batch request here that only has 1 thing in it. So not much use as a batch of 1, but it gives you the status of all the requests in that batch. And we'll come back to that after we've done more of the demo. The next button here is a create new request, and this allows us to create a request. And again, we'll go into that. And then the final page here is the new batch import. So this is uploading a batch import. One thing you'd be glad to hear that the file that's used to upload these batch templates, if you'd used it before, is exactly the same as it was in USCRS. So if you have been using that spreadsheet previously, you'll be able to just use the same file here, and that works and imports in batch. So we're going to go through now, and we're going to create a simple task. Now, one thing before I start creating the task is just to talk a bit about the statuses, just in case, and just to clarify. So obviously a draft is, as you would expect, it's a draft request. It's not seen by any staff members. It's not, until you submit it, it only exists in your view. Once I've submitted a task, a request, then it becomes a new request, and then it goes through a process of being accepted or possibly being rejected. You can also withdraw requests as well if you want to. But you can see here is one that's under authoring, which means that the US staff have decided to take your request and are going to add that to the US edition. And so these process flows happen automatically dependent on the integration point and where the work's being done. And we'll show you how that works with a couple of things that we're about to show. So I'm going to create a new request. Now, when I click on the Create New Request button on the side there, I get this dialog box, and it asks me for a couple of questions. Now, we have two ways of submitting new requests. One is called simple, and this is the one we'll demonstrate first. The simple is pretty much a replication of the form that you would have used in USCRS. Obviously looks very different, but it's the same data that's being asked for. So we've replicated that so that the learning curve to use a new system is not hard and not very steep. The other one is called direct. Now direct is what we like to call authoring light, and we'll show you a quick demo of that later on. But it means you can do more than one change request on a concept. If you think back to how you were using USCRS in the past, it was always a single change was one request. So for example, if I wanted to change a description and add a relationship to an existing concept, that would be two requests in the simple way of doing it. In the new direct way, this would be one request, and the request change becomes the concept being changed more than the specific components. So I'm going to demonstrate the simple input mode. Hopefully you can see these drop downs. In the drop downs, basically ask for request type. And in the request type, it goes from changing descriptions, relationships, inactivating concepts, adding a new concept, a new description, a new relationship, and so on. I'm going to do a very basic create a new concept. So that's all I ask for, and I'll create this request. It takes me into this page. Now you can see it's a form-based thing. Anything that's in red is mandated, and we'll walk through these fields in a second. So first of all, I want to create a new concept. We always ask for what is the parent concept. And so in this scenario, I'm going to very unoriginally enhance the hierarchy of software development. So there are two ways to find a concept here. One is to just do type ahead. So I'm going to look for computer programmer, and you can see it's starting to give me the concepts that are relevant, and I can choose like this, and that kind of works out and gives me information. I'm going to delete that now just to. However, I can also go across here. So on the sidebar on the left, you can see either I can go to taxonomy, and I could, if I was so inclined, browse taxonomy, but with 350,000 concepts, that's a lot of browsing. So we also have a search part of the application here. So again, I'm going to type in computer programmer, or start typing it, and it gives me options. Now, what I want to do is I want to use this particular one. So I can drag and drop. I'm not sure if you'll see the dragging and dropping, but I can just drag like this. You can see the field that I can drop into changes color, and put it in there, and it adds in the parent. So what this does, it means it ensures that the parent exists, and it is something that is actually a SNOMED concept, so we don't have issues with incorrect things coming through. So now I'm going to add a new FSN. I'm going to ask to create a front-end program. We also ask the semantic tag. The semantic tag is very important so that we can create a fully specified name. Either you can choose down here. So this is an occupation. And you'll see that automatically adds it to the FSN. So this is all filled out automatically for you. So you can see now I could change a preferred term if I wanted to. I could add in another synonym. Let's add in a synonym and just say, let's call it front-end developer. I can't spell. There we go. So I wanted that synonym as well. If this was an existing code in my system, I could add a local SNOMED code here. It'll also validate whether it's a valid SNOMED code, so you can't submit incorrect codes. Local codes, again, this is more for your own reference. If this was a code that you had a totally different identifier and you just wanted to keep a track, then this is where you'd use this field. Those are both optional, they don't need to be filled. The topic field is a slight change from USCRS. In USCRS, the topic field tended to be a free text field where there was all and sundry that was entered in, from 1 or 2 words to 256 words. Now the topic field is used by staff to categorize requests come in. So the change between the old USCRS and this system is that there is a drop down in topics, and these are generally represent the domains of content. This will grow sometimes. This is very dynamic, but at the moment, we have allergies, we have DICOM, we have general content change request. So we're going to go for a general content change request here. We also ask for a more narrative summary. So let's say improving the software development hierarchy. One thing we also mandate is providing a proposed use case. And the reason for this is to ensure that we get a high quality request coming in. It also makes it easier for staff to be able to have a look at a request and make a decision on whether it should be in the US edition, or if it gets promoted to the international edition, whether it should be in the international edition. I'm going to add a proposed use case. So I read it on Wikipedia. Obviously, that's a very valid use case. And the reference here we'll say is Wikipedia. Obviously, what we expect for references is something a little bit more specific than Wikipedia, obviously, and that could be URLs, that could be references to papers and so on. Now, I've filled out everything here. I can add more information if I wanted to. I could add definition. I could add some notes that might be useful. Sorry, hang on. For some reason my phone's going off, sorry. Sorry. This is the problem when you use lots of electronics, then it all goes horribly wrong, as this. There we go. Okay. Okay, so, right, so now I'm going to submit this. I can come back here and look on this here, and I can say, I can either save the request. So if I save this request now, then this saves, and it tells me it's saved, and basically I can go back to my dashboard. On the dashboard now, I can see the draft. This hasn't been submitted. It's not gone to any, it's not gone to any staff. It's not been submitted, so that should be okay. But I'm going to go back in here now, and I'm going to submit this request. So I'm going to submit the request now, and you'll see it moves to a new status. So that's good. It's now sitting in new. Now I have to basically wait for staff to deal with that. Now, what I'm going to ask is, I have an enable helper on the call, Terence, who is looking as a member of staff and is going to add some changes to this. Now, one thing you'll notice is that up in top here, there's a little notification flag. This says 1 at the moment. This tells me what's changed in my, all the work I'm doing or not. So I'm just looking around here now to see if things are changing. So if I go to submitted requests, I can see, like, here's my request that's kind of come in at the moment. But if I go down back to here, you can see, I've got a new notification, and it shows me there's been a comment added to this particular ticket. It's still in a new status. And the important thing to notice here, hopefully you can see this on the screen, is that it's bolded. So I've got a bold, it means it's like an inbox, so it hasn't been read. So I'm going to open this up. So you can see here, if I go down, I've got some comments from Terence. Obviously, my Wikipedia use case isn't good enough, which is terrible. I can then respond as well. Look it up on Google, and I can then submit this. So one thing that's with this system, whenever you have a comment, you'll receive an email notification, as well as if you were in the system having that notification flag, as I mentioned. Sorry, I just realized why I'm getting lots of noise in my head. Okay. So I've now responded back. Terence will get the same notification because he provided the comment. But now what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask Terence if he can accept that comment. So accept that particular concept. And one thing we do, and this is one thing it's worth demonstrating, and this is the real benefit of the integration between the US CRS and the international CRS, is this particular concept we're going to say should actually be promoted to the international edition. So what's going to happen is if I refresh this page, I should see, it's been accepted. You can see that they've changed to accepted status. And you can see down here on the side, I now have 2 accepted. Yeah, there it is. If I refresh the page once more, waiting for it to be forwarded, and when it gets forwarded, hopefully, let's just see, or not. It's not forwarding. That's fine.
You didn't actually forward it, Rory.
I know. I'm waiting for Terence to forward it, Jim.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I was typing, sorry.
So this has been forwarded, which means that the international CRS, which looks very similar to this system, has actually received this as a new request. So when I now go into this task, I can see that it has an international request ID. It also has an international request status, so that if you were trying to find out, well, where is my request at? What's the status of it? Is it in the release or not? You can come in here and you'll be able to see the status. I think it should now have been accepted on the international one by now. If I just refresh, not quite. Once Terence is now quickly working behind the scenes to accept this on the international CRS, and we'll see that it's accepted. Now, the way the process works is once these get accepted, they then get authored eventually. And once they get put into ready to be released, they get a ready for release status. And when an international ticket gets a ready for release status, then your local, the US request here will get completed. So you know at that point that it's going to be appearing in an international edition. However, also, Terence has the ability to reject my tickets. So, and when it gets rejected, it will come right back to the US system with a note on why there was a rejection. Now, generally, rejections can be down to requests not meeting editorial guidelines, both internationally, but also US editorial guidelines. If I see here, you can see the request status has just been changed. So I can just, again, refresh this page. It's now come back to accepted. It's no longer forwarded. But if I come in here, I can see down in the notes, I can see the international status while it's been rejected. And here, my use case is still not good enough. So the international team have rejected it. And then at this point, it stays in accepted zone. So the US team will then make a decision on whether to either enter it into the US edition or similarly reject it. However, as I'm terribly embarrassed by my really bad use case, I'm going to withdraw this request. So if I withdraw this request, I just give myself a reason. Use case was not good enough. Okay, I can't spell. Here we go. And this means that it no longer sits on the submitted requests, so the US staff don't have to pick this up. I can check here again by clicking on Show Closed Requests. You can see here's my withdrawn one. I've taken it off the system, so that kind of works out quite nicely.
We have a question, Rory.
Yeah, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Do you want to ask questions now? Do you want to leave until the end?
If ask a question now, so I can't see. I haven't got all the screens open. So please go ahead, ask the question.
Okay. Constantino wants to know, will accepted requests from the US extension to SNOMED International appear in, say, the next August public release?
Depending on the timetable. So, for example, if something gets promoted, so for the January release, so the January 2018 release in the international team, the cutoff was the beginning of October. So if a request had been forwarded before then, it would appear in the January release. So similarly which means that it would then appear in the March release of the US edition. So similarly now, if something got forwarded today, let's say, it would get into the pipeline, it would be backlogged for when the authors start the next authoring cycle, which is in a couple of weeks' time in the international team. And so that would be picked up from CRS, and that would then appear, all going well, in the July international release, and therefore in the September release of the US edition. generally the benefit of the system, and this is where the two working together does cut down a lot of time and effort for both teams, because it was very manual before, and a lot of that manual effort's now kind of been taken away. So hopefully we will see things being promoted or added to whichever is a relevant addition more quickly. The next thing I'm going to show you is a batch import. Now this is, again, so as I said, this uses the same file that you would have used before. There is a link here in very, very light blue that allows you to download that template. But I'm not going to download the template because it's just a spreadsheet. Luckily, I have a couple that I prepared already. I can either drag a file onto this page, or I can just do a more typical select a file. So I'm going to find my demo, which is here. And so I'm going to upload this file now. It's processing away. I'll wait for that to finish. And now the check shows me that it's done. Now this is really the staging area. So this has not yet been properly imported. This is the system's taken the batch template. It's had a look at it and says, these are the errors I found initially. And you can see they're pretty obvious where they're noted out. So here, for example, when I hover over it, it gives me the tooltip. This one has an invalid SNOMED code, so it won't let me save that. This one actually has a current FSN that's been duplicated. So there's actually already a concept that has acquired pericardial cyst in SNOMED. So it doesn't need to be imported. And similarly, if I go down, similar thing there, and here, there's a missing parent concept. So you can see here, there's missing parent concept. In this template as well, we have new concepts, we have new synonyms. So this is where I wanted to add a new synonym to the SNOMED CT concept. And I can retire concepts. This is very much the way that you would have been using USCRS in the past. Now, so generally what we say is we would use this staging area, you would note what the errors are, and you would go back to the spreadsheet, fix the errors in the spreadsheet, and then re-import again. Now, luckily, I have a fixed version of the spreadsheet, and I will import this one. So again, it does the same work. It's processing, it's checking. And let's see, there we go. And this one, great, I've got a green, I have no reds. That's always good. Here we go. So I'm now going to import this all in. And basically I do that by selecting this one here, and I'm going to then say import requests. It gives me a quick summary, just so I'm very aware. I have 14 requests here, 11 new, one new synonym, and 2 retired concepts, and I will import that now. That's working away. This message does come back a bit quickly sometimes when in fact, well, it's done now anyway, but sometimes, but obviously if it's a larger batch, it can take a bit longer to be imported. You also notice I've also got a notification to say my batch requests have been imported successfully. So once this has been done, I can also clean these files off. So if I want to keep this clean, I could just get rid of that one that didn't work. So I just remove that file, and it means I've still got oh, I deleted the other one as well. That was very clever. If I go back to my dashboard now you can see I've got a lot of drafts. So when it imports these batch concepts from the spreadsheet, it puts them directly into draft. So I can go and look here at acute deep vein thrombosis of the right upper limb following procedure, and I can check, yes, this is what I expected to see. I want to submit that. And I can do this for all of them. Now, one thing I want to demonstrate when we've got more concepts like this is I can submit them in batch. So I can say, I'm going to take these 3, for example, and I'm going to submit them. So up here in the top, you see there's 3 icons. This first one is to submit the selected requests. The second one is to withdraw these requests. And when a request is in draft, you can actually delete it. So you don't have to have drafts sitting around. You can just remove them, and they go off the system, and they don't get in the way if you start to have lots of information there. So we're going to submit them, and it goes ahead and submits them, and it should hopefully tell me that they're all successful. If they're not successful, it will tell me. So 3 have been processed. I'm going to close this, and you can see those 3 have now been submitted. They can be picked up by staff and dealt with. Similarly, I don't want any of these ones, so I'm just going to get rid of all of these. I'm going to delete those. There we go. One thing that's useful, as I showed earlier on, was what it looks like in the batch request screen here. So now we can see, here's the one that I just submitted. It must be this latest one. And you can see these are the ones that are still in the system, either they're in draft or they're in new. And once a batch has started being submitted, then the batch goes in progress. Once everything has been put into a completed state, whether that be completed or ready for release or rejected or withdrawn, then the batch gets completed. But it's a nice way of keeping a track of the stuff you've been submitted. That's the batch import. The one final thing I wanted to demonstrate was the direct entry. And this is, as I said, authoring light. So I'm going to create a new request. And this time I'm going to choose the direct input mode. And when you choose a direct input mode, there are a lot less choices after this. So I can either change an existing concept or I can add a new concept. Now I'm not going to add a new concept because I'll have to make something else up. So I'm going to choose change concept. And you see the screen's a bit different. So you don't have the same form entry. This is a blank page here. So as it says here, I need to edit a concept. I need to drag and drop it from the search. So I'm going to go and search for limb. And I'm going to take entire limb. And that's what I would like to change. I want to add a description and a relationship. So I drag this over here. And what this gives me is a representation of all the components of that concept. This is very similar to what terminologists using our authoring platform see. It shows you the preferred terms, the FSNs, any other synonyms, definitions, plus relationships and other attributes. I'm going to add a description. I'm going to just say whole limb. This is probably very wrong. I know it's very wrong. I'm also going to then add another attribute. You see, it gives you type ahead here. And one thing it does do is it doesn't let me put in things that I can't put in. So let's say, for example, I wanted to say, well, for some reason, I wanted to say it was a disease or disease, then it won't actually let me do this. Oh, maybe it will. Haha, shouldn't let me do that. But normally it will stop you entering things that you shouldn't do. But if I want to add in here body, here we go. So I'm going to say it is a body structure. And then I can submit this request, and that goes down is one whole request. At the moment, our experience has been not a lot of people are using this yet. People are still generally using the batch template to upload stuff. But we expect more people as knowledge on how to model some of these concepts becomes more widespread, that this will be used more widely. So a couple of things just to finish off on. There are a couple of links down at the bottom. One is a help button. This help takes you into a user guide. This one's been set up for the US CRS. Is how do you obtain an account? How do you get to it? This is a recording from the international webinar we did a year ago, so that will be replaced by this recording. And then it goes down and says, what type of contests can you make? And it gives you a bit more detail about what you can do, what are the statuses. So that's of use. There's a full user guide on how to navigate around, how to create requests. I would recommend that you read this user guide. It's got a lot of very useful information on how to use the system. And there's also a little button here called feedback. This is to use if you have issues. For example, if I click on this, it allows me to enter a support ticket that our team picks up and will do what we can to fix any issues that you find. And so that's the button to use for that. So as kind of a very quick tour around the CRS, it's supposed to be a very simple system because this is supposed to be something that's easy for you to do. We're always open for feedback and things that can be changed. And as I said, this is the same system that's used at the international level. This means that it helps us to make sure that we get high quality content in and high quality content in quickly into the relevant editions. So now I'll open it up to the floor. If you'd like to ask any questions, please unmute yourself, raise your hand, and time for questions if you have any. Let's see if anybody's unraising their hands. No. No
Rory, do you want to talk about the supported browsers?
Yes, sorry, yes. So the browser that we recommend using here is the Google Chrome browser. It doesn't work very well with Internet Explorer, and that is a specific decision we made when this was built a while back. If you use Chrome, it works fine. We strongly recommend that. We can't guarantee that it will work very well with Firefox or Safari, but generally always recommend to use Google Chrome for using this application.
And Rory, maybe if we can just mention the odd little thing right now with refreshing the screen on the login.
Yes, that's a good point. So basically, sometimes when you log in, let's just see if I can get this to work now. So if I come back and I go to log in again. So some people have reported getting this. So I'll do this, and of course it's not going to happen now. But sometimes when you log in again, you get a little red message above the login that says you've been unable to be logged in, please refresh the page. Now those generally aren't a incorrect password or username. It's because there's some local caching issue with cookies locally. This is a bug that the international team's looking to fix as soon as we can. But in the meantime, the way to get around this is to refresh the page by Command F5 on Windows and Alt R on MacBooks. And this will allow you to enter in the details and log in, and you should get past that particular step. Are there any questions from anybody else? No? Okay. In that case, there is just, whoa, that's a bit bigger than I expected. There is an email address here at the bottom of the screen here, hopefully you can see, which is uscrs@snomed.org. If you do have any issues logging in, please email that inbox, and the support team will pick that up as soon as possible and help wherever we can. Otherwise, I would recommend reading the user guide and just trying the system out, really. One thing just to make clear that I didn't really clarify at the beginning, if you are a user from USCRS, all of your content will have been migrated into the new system, so all your requests are there, all the notes that you've made should be there, so you shouldn't have lost any data. If by chance you do notice something's missing, please get in touch with us and we'll ensure that we restore it or find out what's going on. But all the data that was in USCRS has been transferred over to the new platform. So if there are no further questions, then I'll just say thank you very much for your time, and good luck using the system. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Rory.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.